Right now, you folks all have things that are written into your code. This is the end result for what we're looking at. I know it seems like a lot of lines, um, but down here under void loop, this is what actually runs your code. The actual code after we get past the setup is much, much easier and much, much easier to walk through and understand how it works. It just requires a little bit more setup up here. So you should have something that looks a little bit like this, but without the functions. And what we want to do is start writing the code in here. So at the top, one good practice that we're going to start to add is who the programmer is. So when I have these double slash lines here, that means that that's just a comment. It's not going to interfere with how the code runs at all. It's just a note to the people that might be reviewing this or somebody that might modify it later. You're also going to need to write what the program is, and in this case, it's a light show. All right. When we start writing our code, we have to declare the variables. So you might have your pin mode set, and we're just writing digital writes to pins right now. Girls, if you pay attention, this is going to go much smoother off the phones. So we're going to have to come up with a name for these. So right now, I have 8 lights here, and they're all colored. Okay? So what I would recommend is writing in the number light and then also the color with it. So 1 yellow. And this is going to be equal to, I'm going to set this equal to whatever pin I have this plugged into. So my first light right here is plugged into pin 13. So it'll be 1 yellow is going to equal pin 13, and then the semicolon after that. The semicolon, you have to think of like a period at the end of the sentence. That semicolon allows the computer to know in this computer language that that's the end of the instruction for that line. So if my first one, my first variable, the first thing that can vary or change is this yellow light, I'm labeling it 1 because that's the position it is for it lighting up. And also the color, 1 yellow is 13. Cool thing about coding is you are encouraged to copy and paste. So I can copy and paste this one below, const int. What would I change this to right here, Brody? Please pay attention while I'm going over this. Don't get distracted. Clive, what would I change that to, the highlighted part? 2. And then Ben, what would I write after 2 instead of yellow? What? Red. And then Cody, what number would it be? Nope. Where is this plugged into? 12. Okay. So right now, we're declaring 1 yellow. Anytime I write in the code 1 yellow, it's going to turn power on or off to pin 13. Pin 13 is going to go through this, into this metal strip that's underneath this LED, through the light, back through this strip that's underneath the breadboard rather, and then to ground, and then all the way back to the circuit to complete the circuit. So I have my first 2 lights done here. Remember, copying and pasting is encouraged. I'll copy this, paste this here. What do I have to change for this one, Smaya? What would I write here? 3. Kimura, what would come after this? The color. So it's yellow, red, green. And then Jaden, what would the number be? What? 11. Because this is plugged into the 11 pin. All right, Gage, what's this going to change to? What? 4. Mogadas, what's the red going to change to? Blue. Adam, what's the number going to be? 10. So now I have those first 4 done. I can copy this whole thing, paste it down here. The nice thing is, because I kept the color order the same, for me, all I have to do is change the numbers. So this is going to be 5. And then the actual pin it's plugged into is 9. The next one's going to be 6. The pin it's plugged into is 8. Next one's 7. And the pin it's plugged into is 7. And last and least, 8 blue. And this is going to be plugged into pin 6. This is usually a good time to step back for a second and just double check and make sure that you have all of your variables declared properly. Okay? So right now, if you just went through, yep, that one's 1 yellow. Yep, that's plugged into 13. Because if you get this wrong, it's going to make it much more difficult for you to see later when we write the code where the error in the code is. So when we look at a finished one, and this part's kind of similar to yours, your void setup, you're still going to have to set up your pin modes. Okay? So right here, remember, void just means space. So this is a space where we're going to set some things up. Void setup. And because it's a function, we're saying that there's going to be a space after this that I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Or the computer code's going to say what happens. So this is pin mode, lowercase p, uppercase mode. M for mode. Pin mode, 1 yellow. Is 1 yellow going to be an output or an input? Are we sending electricity out or in? What do you think, Thomas? Output, and this is all capitals. Okay? This is going in parentheses because this is a variable. We're setting this pin mode at 1 yellow to be an output, semicolon. You can copy and paste this if you want. Pin mode to red. The other thing that's beneficial about copying and pasting is this way you'll make sure everything's kind of named the same. I'll copy both of these lines, paste them here. The next one's 3 green. And the one after that's 4 blue. Now I can copy all of these and change these to 5 yellow. Six red. Oops. See, if you copy and paste, it kind of avoids those typos. But if you don't have too many typos, feel free to write it. 8 blue. And the last thing we're going to need is the other curly bracket or the right closed one. This, you got to think of like paragraphs. So right now I'm saying that there's going to be this function is going to happen in any time we do a setup or a different function. When I have this left curly bracket and right curly bracket, that's the beginning of the function and the end of it. So now let's talk about setting up your own functions. This is what I really wanted to get to today. So we're going to say void 1, 8. So this is going to turn on lights 1 and 8. Void 1, 8. And I'm setting the function. I'm setting it up, so I have to have the curly bracket. Okay? If you're looking at your other code, if I want to turn something on or off, how do I do that? What's the first thing I write? Digital. I'm going to make sure my capitalization is correct here. Yep, it's the second word that's usually capitalized. Digital write 1 yellow. What's this going to be? For 1 yellow. If I want something on, do I write high or low? High. And that's the end of that line. I'll copy this, paste this below. If I'm turning on 1 and 8, So this next one, I'm going to control all of them every time for all these functions. 2 red. Oh my goodness. 2 red. Is this going to be high or low? So right here, again, you can copy and paste this stuff if you want. Maybe the quickest thing would just be to do this. Digital write, just so I can keep pasting this in and then writing the rest. Digital write, 3, green, comma, low, parentheses, semicolon. Digital write, comma, 4, blue, comma, low, parentheses, semicolon. Digital write, 5, yellow, low, digital write, 6, what's that, red, low, semicolon. Digital write, 7, green, comma, low, parentheses, semicolon. And last and least, digital write, 8. What's 8? Blue. So right now I have this function is set up. Okay, so this is for turning on lights 1 and 8. You can see this because 1's high and 8's high and everything else is low. Once we have this first function written, I can copy this entire thing, paste it here. Maybe the next function I'm going to write is 2, 7. So it's going to turn on lights 2 and 7. Right here, Clive, would this be high or low for 1 yellow? If I was turning on lights 2 and 7. Low. Gage, would 2 red be high or low? High. What other one would be high, Mokadas? What other one would be high besides 2? 7. And then all the rest should be low. So because we're copying and pasting this and we get a, we can turn on whatever combination of lights you want. We could make one that's 3 lights. Maybe the next one's 3, 4, 5, 6. Then 2 would be low. 7 would be low. And then these ones all in the middle, 3, 4, 5, 6 would be high. Oh, my Lanta. Okay. So this isn't that bad. We're doing a lot of copying and pasting. These names are just names you make up. We could name this that. And when we go to write the code in void loop, as long as this is exactly the same, it'll still run that function. Okay? This is the last little thing we'll cover. And then you guys will be free to transition yours to using these functions. So, excuse me. After I have all my functions set up, we're on to void loop. This is where the program just runs through the entire loop. Curly brackets to open it. Maybe I'll start with 1, 8. I need to know, the computer needs to know that it's a function that's running. So 1, 8, and then just those brackets after will do that. Semicolon, and then we have a delay. Our delay is in milliseconds. So to keep this simple, I'll just keep that at 1,000. And then it's going to do a different function. 2, 7, parenthesis, parenthesis, semicolon, delay. Let's switch things up. We'll make that 1.5 seconds. And then maybe we have 3, 4, 5, 6. parenthesis, parenthesis, so it calls the function delay 500, whatever. All right. This is your code. When we get to writing the code, it takes longer to set up those functions, but there's a much smaller chance that you'll have errors. And if you had to adjust anything ever, adjusting it up here will automatically change the way that the code runs down here in our void loop. All right, we got to make sure there's a bracket at the end, so that way the computer code knows that it's ending there. We can start the simulation. Oh, looks like I got some errors here. Looks like I got quite a few. So if we scroll up to the top here, what's wrong with all my pin modes? What's that? Pin mode should have a comma, not an equal sign. Let's see. 4 blue. What is the problem with 4 blue here? Oh, those are regular colon, not a semicolon. And because I copy and pasted it, it's going to be a similar problem for the rest of these as well. Let's see. So this right here should be a semicolon. And then it would probably help if I spelled digital correctly. So even if you get this all done, you might have to look back through here, make some changes to your code to get it to run properly. Void loop. It should be good. Carolyn, you are on top of things. And I got the high HF right here. There we go. Oops. So there's the light show right there. If you have those errors, the most common thing is you probably have typos. I had them. They happen. You got to go back and check your typos for that. Capitalization obviously does matter, as you saw. This is a video I just recorded. If you're stuck here with the functions, I'll post this video in Classroom so that way you guys can get it done. What I'd like to see is you have at least 4 functions listed here and having it looping through the 4 different functions and change the delay times as well. Okay? You guys can get back to work on whatever you were working on, but know that you have to have this done with functions for the RCA. All right? You guys got the last 20 minutes of class to work.